A report by the United Nations says women and girls are being killed in record numbers and left unprotected as wars multiply. The report says as the world experiences the highest number of active conflicts since 1946, there are unprecedented risks for women and girls. It says that in 2024, 676 million women and girls lived within 50 kilometers of a deadly conflict, the highest number since the 1990s. More alarmingly, in the last 2 years, the number of women and children killed in armed conflict quadrupled compared to the previous 2 years. Also, sexual violence in conflict rose by 87% in just 2 years. With more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the CEO of Nigerian Women Trust Fund, Brenda Anugwom. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Why are women and children so vulnerable during war, according to this report?
Well, absolutely. They are very vulnerable because one thing is when you see a woman, you see her child. Men can, go off and, be on their own.
Well, they also get killed during the war.
They also get killed, yes. But women and children are very vulnerable because women usually stay with children. So once you touch the woman, you're bound to touch the kids. And if a woman has 3 or 4 kids, it's more difficult for her to escape than someone who is all by himself. And even to hide, it would be difficult if a child is hungry and is screaming. So yeah, it's such a, the numbers are upsetting. Yeah,
they are. And the UN says there are 61 active conflicts around the world, the Gaza ceasefire notwithstanding. That's the most since 1946. And the UN says this new era of war, as you correctly pointed out, is taking a heavy toll on women and girls, intensifying the risks and suffering they face, and erasing some recent progress in gender equality.
Absolutely. And you did mention Gaza. I do remember seeing a UN Women report, and they put the number dead people at about 68,000 plus, out of which about 30,000 women and girls. That is so disheartening.
It is.
And I mean, if you look at the whole situation, the problem with wars and armed conflict, the world has got certain rules of engagement, they call them. But I don't think these people abide by these rules, because if they do, they should be able to preserve women and children who are by any chance innocent and focus on the warring parties. But they always get caught in the fire, and sometimes they are used as human shields. That's quite unfortunate.
And as you said, I mean, many men are getting killed in war. Women are left to look after the family on their own, which obviously makes them extremely vulnerable. What's the situation in Nigeria like? Although, I mean, Nigeria is not sort of an active war zone, but there are kind of simmering conflicts going on, aren't there?
Yeah, I mean, we have pockets of incidences around. But the most, for me, the heartbreaking is, what happens domestically. There's a whole lot of people being killed.
You mean domestic violence? Right.
Through domestic violence. And between November 2024 and January 2025, 25 women were killed in their homes. I mean, the one that really made people talk so much was what happened in January this year, where a woman was set ablaze by her husband for being the breadwinner. And if you look at the trend, it's mostly women who either are not well educated or do not have people to run to. Just yesterday, I was talking to someone who came to me complaining about, being brutalized, being emotionally also abused. And when I said, oh, could you go home, pick your kids, go home, start afresh? She said, I've got nowhere to go to. So we have a problem with where women can go to and stay safely if they are experiencing any form of violence, which could eventually lead to their demise.
So that's one issue, domestic violence. But there's also the issue of displaced people, people who are, I mean, their villages were raided and they've had to move to IDPs and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and it comes to, with the same thing that I said. They are either used as shields, or human shields, or in the course of trying to find protection for themselves and their children, they get killed, they lose their lives. And so many of them have had to travel long distances, and the toll it takes on our bodies. We are not, somehow physically built strongly like the men. So by the time you travel 3-4 miles carrying 4 kids, something will go wrong somewhere.
And the report calls for women to be more involved at the end of conflict. It says that although more and more women are being killed and their bodies are being used as battlegrounds in conflict, with rape being used as a weapon of war, we're not seeing more women being included in peace processes and negotiations. And according to the report, the more women are included, the more durable peace will be. I mean, how instructive is that?
Women are peacemakers. We are by nature peacemakers. And I don't mean to gloat, but I feel that if we had women in the Ukraine-Russia conflict, it wouldn't have escalated this way. If we had women in Gaza, rather than the men we have there, we wouldn't have had what we had there. However, we keep conversing for inclusion in every space. And this is one space where women are needed, and needed urgently. Not just until the end of violence. We need them from the negotiation table. When the warring factions, before they pick up their arms, women are needed to sit at the table. In South Sudan, where I worked so many years ago, they have 4 vice presidents. Recently, one of the vice presidents was arrested by the president. And I remember when I was there, I was asking, why would, a country have 4 vice presidents? And we were told that each of them represents the warring faction. So if you have 4 of them at the table, they'll make their men put down their weapons. So that was a good agreement. Now, the fact that one of them now has been arrested, it's time to bring in the women to sit with them so that it doesn't escalate like what is going on in Sudan itself.
Tell us a bit about your organization, the Nigerian Women Trust Fund. What is it and what do you do? So
we were set up in 2011, and we were basically set up just to ensure that the 35% affirmative action is implemented by the government. We want to have more women in governance, we want women in spaces where we speak and also help the men formulate policies. And we've been there since 2011, as I mentioned, and we have actually grown to now cater to violence against women and girls, because we've noticed that there are dotted lines from violence against women and girls to getting elected. If you happen to encounter one of the two, it's possible that you may not want to run for office. Having, of course, talked to some people who have actually run for office, one served and have said we don't want to go back because of the kind of things we faced. So we are now working with these sets of people who have experienced violence, people who are, have issues, to see how we can get them sorted out, maybe in safe spaces. And that's where we found out that we do not have, government does not have safe spaces like shelters. Like homes where people can go to if they are being brutalized at home. So well,
in fairness, those things tend to be done by NGOs.
Yeah, NGOs, private. But I think we
add some funding.
The government needs to get in, because it is actually getting out of hand. And I also think that the early warning, early response system we use in environmental issues should also be used when it comes to violence against women and girls. Know exactly how to mark the trend. Know exactly when to leave. If it gets to a certain level, run. Otherwise, you lose your life.
Yeah, I mean, just returning to that UN report, which is kind of a global report, and thanks for sharing your assessment of what's going on in Nigeria here. Another finding in that report is that although military spending is on the rise globally, we're seeing that women organizations on the front line, like your organization, helping women, are in imminent danger of closure because of a lack of funding. I mean, I don't know what the situation is with yours, but that sounds like a symptom of a world that invests in war and not in peace.
Absolutely. I think the last sentence you made is that it should be the title of a whole research being done. The funding space is shrinking and shrinking fast, and people are pulling funding from what they think it's not lucrative enough, and that means things that have to do with women issues get to suffer. But we do know that we need to do more, especially in this climb, and especially with this sort of reports showing massive conflicts going on all over the world. It's quite unfortunate, but it is, the funding space is shrinking.
Indeed. I hope the situation improves.
I hope so too.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed for coming in. Brenda Anugwom is the CEO of Nigerian Women Trust Fund. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.